Welcome, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's reading of the Advent of Divine Justice. In this section, we'll be reading paragraphs 87 through 94. Let some, at this very moment, gird up the loins of their endeavor, flee their native towns, cities, and states, forsake their country, and putting their whole trust in God as the best provision for their journey, set their faces and direct their steps towards those distant climes, those virgin fields, those unsurrendered cities, and bend their energies to capture the citadels of men's hearts. Hearts which, as Baha'u'llah has written, the hosts of revelation and of utterance can subdue. Let them not tarry until such time as their fellow laborers will have passed the first stage in their campaign of teaching, but let them rather, from this very hour, arise to usher in the opening phase of what will come to be regarded as one of the most glorious chapters in the international history of their faith. Let them, at the very outset, teach their own selves, that their speech may attract the hearts of their hearers. Let them regard the triumph of their faith as their supreme objective. Let them not consider the largeness or smallness of the receptacle that carries the measure of grace that God poureth forth in this age. Let them disencumber themselves of all attachment to this world and the vanities thereof, and with the spirit of detachment which Abdu'l-Baha exemplified and wished them to emulate, bring these diversified peoples and countries to the remembrance of God and His supreme manifestation. Let His love be a storehouse of treasure for their souls, on the day when every pillar shall tremble, when the very skins of men shall creep, when all eyes shall stare up with terror. Let their souls be aglow with the flame of the undying fire that burneth in the midmost heart of the world, in such wise that the waters of the universe shall be powerless to cool down its ardor. Let them be unrestrained as the wind, which neither the sight of desolation nor the evidences of prosperity can either pain or please. Let them unloose their tongues and proclaim unceasingly His cause. Let them proclaim that which the most great Spirit will inspire them to utter in the service of the cause of their Lord. Let them beware lest they contend with anyone, nay, strive to make him aware of the truth with kindly manner and most convincing exhortation. Let them, wholly for the sake of God, proclaim His message, and with that same spirit accept whatever response their words may evoke in their hearers. Let them not for one moment forget that the faithful Spirit shall strengthen them through its power, and that a company of His chosen angels shall go forth with them, as bidden by Him who is the Almighty, the All-Wise. Let them ever bear in mind how great is the blessedness that awaiteth them that have attained the honor of serving the Almighty, and remember that such a service is indeed the prince of all goodly deeds, and the ornament of every goodly act. And finally, let these soul-stirring words of Baha'u'llah, as they pursue their course throughout the length and breadth of the Southern American continent, be ever ready on their lips, as solace to their hearts, a light on their path, a companion in their loneliness, and a daily sustenance in their journeys. O wayfarer in the path of God, take thou thy portion of the ocean of His grace, and deprive not thyself of the things that lie hidden in its depths. A dewdrop out of this ocean would, if shed upon all that are in the heavens and on earth, suffice to enrich them with the bounty of God, the Almighty, the All-Knowing, the All-Wise. With the hands of renunciation draw forth from its life-giving waters, and sprinkle therewith all created things, that they may be cleansed from all man-made limitations, and may approach the mighty seat of God, this hallowed and resplendent spot. Be not grieved if thou performest it thyself alone. Let God be all sufficient for thee. Proclaim the cause of thy Lord unto all who are in the heavens and on the earth. Should any man respond to thy call, lay bare before him the pearls of the wisdom of the Lord thy God, which his Spirit hath sent down upon thee, and be thou of them that truly believe. And should any one reject thy offer, turn thou away from him, and put thy trust and confidence in the Lord of all worlds. By the righteousness of God, whoso openeth his lips in this day and maketh mention of the name of his Lord, the hosts of divine inspiration shall descend upon him from the heaven of my name, the all-knowing, the all-wise. On him shall also descend the concourse on high, each bearing aloft a chalice of pure light. Thus hath it been foreordained in the realm of God's revelation, by the behest of him who is the all-glorious, the most powerful. Let these words of Abdu'l-Baha, gleaned from the tablets of the divine plan, ring likewise in their ears as they go forth, assured and unafraid on his mission. O ye apostles of Baha'u'llah, may my life be a sacrifice for you. Behold the portals which Baha'u'llah hath opened before you. Consider how exalted and lofty is the station you are destined to attain, how unique the favors with which you have been endowed. My thoughts are turned towards you, and my heart leaps within me at your mention. Could you know how my soul gloweth with your love, so great a happiness would flood your hearts as to cause you to become enamored with each other. The full measure of your success is as yet unrevealed, its significance still unapprehended. Ere long ye will, with your own eyes, witness how brilliantly every one of you, even as a shining star, will radiate in the firmament of your country the light of divine guidance, and will bestow upon its people the glory of an everlasting life. I fervently hope that in the near future the whole earth may be stirred and shaken by the results of your achievements. The Almighty will no doubt grant you the help of His grace, will invest you with the tokens of His might, and will endue your souls with the sustaining power of His Holy Spirit. Be not concerned with the smallness of your numbers, neither be oppressed by the multitude of an unbelieving world. Exert yourselves, your mission is unexpectedly glorious. Should success crown your enterprise, America will assuredly evolve into a center from which waves of spiritual power will emanate, and the throne of the kingdom of God will, in the plenitude of its majesty and glory, be firmly established. It should be remembered that the carrying out of the 7-year plan involves, insofar as the teaching work is concerned, no more than the formation of at least one center in each of the Central and South American republics. The 100th anniversary of the birth of the faith of Baha'u'llah should witness, if the plan already launched is to meet with success, the laying in each of these countries of a foundation, however rudimentary, on which the rising generation of the American believers may, in the opening years of the 2nd century of the Baha'i era, be able to build. Theirs will be the task, in the course of successive decades, to extend and reinforce those foundations, and to supply the necessary guidance, assistance, and encouragement that will enable the widely scattered groups of believers in those countries to establish independent and properly constituted local assemblies, and thereby erect the framework of the administrative order of their faith, The erection of such a framework is primarily the responsibility of those whom the community of the North American believers have converted to the divine message. It is a task which must involve, apart from the immediate obligation of enabling every group to evolve into a local assembly, the setting up of the entire machinery of the administrative order in conformity with the spiritual and administrative principles governing the life and activities of every established Baha'i community throughout the world. No departure from these cardinal and clearly enunciated principles, embodied and preserved in Baha'i national and local constitutions, common to all Baha'i communities, can under any circumstances be tolerated. This, however, is a task that concerns those who, at a later period, must arise to further a work which, to all intents and purposes, has not yet been effectively started. To pave the way in a more systematic manner for the laying of the necessary foundation on which such permanent national and local institutions can be reared and securely established is a task that will very soon demand the concentrated attention of the prosecutors of the 7-year plan. No sooner has their immediate obligation in connection with the opening up of the few remaining territories in the United States and Canada been discharged than a carefully laid out plan should be conceived, aiming at the establishment of such a foundation. As already stated, the provision for these vast preliminary undertakings, the scope of which must embrace the entire area occupied by the Central and South American republics, constitutes the very core and must ultimately decide the fate of the teaching campaign conducted under the 7-year plan. Upon this campaign must depend not only the effectual discharge of the solemn obligations undertaken in connection with the present plan, but also the progressive unfoldment of the subsequent stages essential to the realization of Abdu'l-Baha's vision of the part the American believers are to play in the worldwide propagation of their cause. These undertakings, preliminary as they are to the strenuous and organized labors by which future generations of believers in the Latin countries must distinguish themselves, require, in turn, without a moment's delay on the part of the National Spiritual Assembly and of both the National Teaching and Inter-America Committees, painstaking investigations preparatory to the sending of settlers and itinerant teachers, whose privilege will be to raise the call of the new day in a new continent. I can only, in my desire to be of some service to those who are to assume such tremendous responsibilities and to suffer such self-denial, attempt to offer a few helpful suggestions, which I trust will facilitate the accomplishment of the great work to be achieved in the very near future. To this work, that must constitute an historical landmark of first-class importance when completed, the energies of the entire community must be resolutely consecrated. The number of Baha'i teachers, be they settlers or travelers, must be substantially increased. The material resources to be placed at their disposal must be multiplied and efficiently administered. The literature with which they should be equipped must be vastly augmented. The publicity that should aid them in the distribution of such literature should be extended, centrally organized, and vigorously conducted. The possibilities latent in these countries should be diligently exploited and systematically developed. The various obstacles raised by the widely varying political and social conditions obtaining in these countries should be closely surveyed and determinedly surmounted. In a word, no opportunity should be neglected, and no effort spared to lay as broad and solid a basis as possible for the progress and development of the greatest teaching enterprise ever launched by the American Baha'i community. The careful translation of such important Baha'i writings as are related to the history, the teachings, or the administrative order of the faith, and their wide and systematic dissemination in vast quantities and throughout as many of these republics as possible, and in languages that are most suitable are needed, would appear to be the chief and most urgent measure to be taken simultaneously with the arrival of the pioneer workers in those fields. Books and pamphlets, writes Abdu'l-Baha in one of the tablets of the Divine Plan, must be either translated or composed in the languages of these countries and islands, to be circulated in every part and in all directions. In countries where no objections can be raised by the civil authorities or any influential circles, this measure should be reinforced by the publication in various organs of the press or carefully worded articles and letters designed to impress upon the general public certain features of the stirring history of the faith and the range and character of its teachings.